morning, good evening, and hello everyone. My name is Payal Tandon. I will be your host today in this webinar in which we're going to talk about how is it that you can ace arithmetic on your GMAT focus or for a very few of you GMAT Classic. Okay. Now, there are some questions that we've asked over here, specifically when do you plan to take the test? I see that about 6 of you are planning to take the test within the next 15 days. I believe some of you may be taking the GMAT Classic, and I will get that information pretty soon in the next poll. But majority of you are about 30 days or more than that away from your test date. Some of you, about 40% of you, haven't even taken the test. All right, that's it. Taken the test date. Okay. Now, we conduct these webinars every weekend. So if you haven't already registered, please register for the reading comprehension webinar, which is scheduled for next Saturday. And then following Sunday, we have this algebra webinar in which we'll be going through fairly difficult topics, inequalities, absolute values, a really fun session. All right. So I'm going to change the pane here. And you're going to see arithmetic GFE PPT on your screen. If you can you please click on yes? That way I know that the screen has stabilized at your end. Okay, well and good. Now, before we get started in this session, let's get to hear where all of you are from. That way we just kind of break the ice and just get to know each other a little better. So I have about 30 people, 32 participants here. So let me know where you are joining us from today. I'm from Bangalore, India. Okay, so Simran from Bangalore, Beatrice, France, all right. Nigeria, okay. Delhi, Bangalore, okay. UK, another one from Bangalore, UK, Mumbai. All right, so I must say this, you guys have taken the time out on your Sunday, taking the time out, dedicating 2 hours of your time, either on your Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. That shows the level of diligence, the level of commitment that you guys have. So hats off to all of you. I take that very seriously. So I will make sure that you get to make the most of these 2 hours, because that's what we do here at e-GMAT. We make sure that we find those efficient ways so that you can get to your target GMAT score in within utilizing the efficient means that we can think of, right? So the first part of this webinar will be to give you your GMAT study plan. That's very important. I understand that this is a hardcore arithmetic session. However, whenever you are starting off your GMAT prep, or even if you are in the middle of your GMAT prep, it's always a good idea to kind of make sure that you are following the right study plan in order to get to your target score, because GMAT, like anything else that you do, is a project, and every project needs to be executed with a very, very solid plan. So we'll spend a couple of minutes talking about that, and then we'll go into the hardcore session in which we're going to be discussing 6 difficult arithmetic questions, and then towards the end I'm going to take questions from you. Okay. Now, in terms of certain housekeeping measures, any question that you have from me, put those in Q&A pod over here that you see towards the bottom right-hand side of your screen, okay? Any questions that I ask you, either put those in the polls, and you've already interacted with me through polls, for example, the yes-no poll here, or put that in the chat, okay? If it's an objective question, then obviously you're going to be putting the response in the poll that I give you. If it's a subjective question, then you're going to be putting that in the chat. Okay. But don't keep your questions in the chat, because then I might lose track of those. Now, again, if you have questions pertaining to the question that we are discussing, that those kinds of questions can very well be put in the chat. Okay. All right. So before I go further, let me also ask this question, because this helps me put things into context. Actually, 2 questions. One, I'm going to take away the chat for a bit. One is, who all are taking the GMAT Classic and who all are taking the GMAT Focus? Because I know some of you may be taking GMAT Classic. Okay, just one of you. All right, so that means within the next 15 days, within the next 10 days, right? So good luck, and let us know how you're doing, okay? All right, so the next question I have is, how many of you are e-GMAT students? Because that lets me calibrate the kind of terminology I use in this session. Okay, so I see majority of you are not e-GMAT students yet. I'm hoping that yet is a very significant word here. All right, so I'm going to be sure to not use a whole lot of e-GMAT terminology. Okay, and whenever I use some, I'm going to explain that. All right, well and good. Um, Tell me, before I help you visualize your GMAT journey, tell me, what are your expectations from this session? You are here, you've dedicated 2 hours of your time here. Tell me, what are your expectations of this from this session? It's very important to be sure to align, right? So your expectations from the session should align with what I am planning to do in this session. So 98 plus percentile in quant, Akshat, that's your expectation of what your target score is. I'm asking, from these 2 hours, what do you want to get out? What do you want to accomplish in these 2 hours? To understand and improve the skills and concepts. All right, Drishti, absolutely master arithmetic. Okay, we can get you on the path to mastering arithmetic, Akshat. Chirag, common mistakes students make. Absolutely, we're going to be talking about that. Josephine, be more confident in arithmetic and know the key concepts. All right, improve my understanding of application of concepts we already know. Perfect, SN. How to efficiently solve problems. All right, Raven, we'll talk about that. To identify any potential conceptual gap. AR, yes, you'll be able to identify that in the realm of the concepts that we'll be talking about in this session. Okay, scope of this topic, Harshit. Okay, master arithmetic. All right, well and good. Simran, how to develop a better approach to solving arithmetic questions. All right, absolutely, we'll be talking about that. Ayushman, clarity on how to prepare properly for GMAT. Absolutely, we will be talking about that too. Perfect. So it seems as if as though our expectations and my plan for this session are in sync. So we are starting off on a good note here. Perfect. Okay, so let's come back to the plan, right? I want you to visualize your GMAT journey. The first step in every GMAT journey needs to be creating your personalized study plan. So, Ayushman said that his expectation is clarity on how to prepare properly for the GMAT. This is where I want you all to focus on. Okay, so I'm going to take away the chat part for a bit because I want you to be completely in tune with what I'm presenting right now. So step number one is creating your personalized study plan. Okay, very important. And I'm going to give you a detailed demo of that. Okay, because I want each one of you to have that kind of study plan. Okay, each one of you deserves that. Okay, I want you to mark my words for that. Then what you do is you need to learn concepts and application. Now, most of you know that you have to learn the concepts. That's a no-brainer, right? You need to know the concepts that are tested on the test, right? You also know that you need to learn how to apply those. And we could see that in the expectations that you guys wrote here. But the problem that I often see in students is that they don't know when to what level they need to learn the application and whether or they don't have a gauge for whether or not they have learned the application. So that feedback loop is missing, that understanding of the level to what you need to get to and the feedback, both of those are missing. And that is the gap that we are going to focus on in this session. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you language using which you can understand to what level you have understood the application and to what level you need to work on, right? What are the gaps that you need to bridge in terms of the application? So towards the end of this session, you will actually get that language, because that language is very critical. Now, once you learn the concepts and application, the next thing that you have to do is you have to be able to master the application. And that's where the course comes into picture. That's where all of the scholarinium comes into picture. And I'll let you, and I will walk you through those things as well. And then towards the end, you need to do test readiness. And test readiness does not mean that you straight away go into taking the marks. Test readiness includes how is it that you prepare yourself to be able to take the marks, right? So that's a very critical piece, and that's a piece which a number of students miss out on. Okay, so at e-GMAT, we have special tools built for each and every stage, whether you're talking about learning concepts, regardless of the level of concepts, whether you're talking about learning application, whether you're talking about mastering application, whether you're talking about learning how to take the marks and then actually taking the marks, right? So for each and every stage, there is a specialized technology built into it, specialized tools built into the entire platform, and that's the platform that you get when you purchase your e-GMAT subscription. And to begin with, you have this personalized study plan, and that's what I'm going to give you a demo of right now. Okay, so let's get into that. And for this, I'm going to change the screen. Okay, and let me share my screen here, and this is going to be an interesting thing, I'm sure. So I see that the screen is stabilizing at your end. The webinar chat is loading, so let it load so that I can see that you are um, able to see this. One second. The chat is still loading, which is surprising. Okay. Can you put in a question here? Okay. It just took a little bit of time for the chat to load. All right. Okay. This is the question. All right. Thank you, Akshat. Yeah. So I'm going to hide this. I want to thank you, Simran. My pleasure to host this session. All right. So I'm going to increase the pane here and I'm going to share my screen. So you would need to tell me whether I'm sharing the right screen or not. So tell me, what is it that you're able to see right now? What were you able to see? Are you able to see the e-GMAT platform, the welcome screen, the e-GMAT website? Perfect. Sounds good. Okay. So I have logged into an e-GMAT paid account. Okay. You go to plan and you click on focus study planner and you click on launch planner. Okay. e-GMAT students, how many of you have created your study plan? Not yet? Okay. All right. So I want you to look at this right now over here and make sure that you create your study plan. Okay. So let's do this. So create your study plan. It starts off with you need to have your own your mock taken, right? Now you can take either the official mock or the Sigma X mock. Very, very important. Okay. Now let's click on this thing. Let's say your target score is 685. Okay, 685, and I set that as target, which is 97th percentile. The system tells you that, okay, which is 740 equivalent, okay. Then I say put my current score as 575, and you will get that estimate from Sigma X mock test. Again, Sigma X mock test is the only mock test that gives you, that is question adaptive, that gives you sectional, subsectional ability scores. Again, very, very accurate estimates, okay. So you do that, Sigma X, click on next here. Now, here on this screen, what you see is that what does your journey entail? Your journey entails going from 575, which is a 62nd percentile, okay, to 685, which is a 97th percentile. So you are able to see what it is what is the journey that you have to make, okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see what are your current sectional scores. For this, I'm going to take a scenario in which the student is not as strong in verbal, so 33rd percentile. The student is pretty strong in quant, 76th percentile. And DI, this is very important. The minute you tell the system that I am at 33rd percentile in verbal and 76th percentile in quant, the system is smart enough to tell you that you need to, in order for you to have gotten 575 score, your data insight score needs to be between 75 and 79, so that you don't put in information which is incorrect, which is inconsistent with what you had already specified. So the system is very, very very smart along those lines. Okay, so 66 percentile. Why? Because DI, logically DI is truly an integrated section that tests you both on verbal and quant skills. Okay, so let's get to your target sectional scores. And right now the system is navigating through 105 probable paths. Okay, there are 105 ways in going from 575 to 685, and the system has analyzed all those paths, and based on what your strengths in based on your strength in quant, and not as good a verbal section. It has given what it has done is it has maximized your quant score, taken you up to 95th percentile, and accordingly, in order for you to get to that 685 score, that 97th percentile overall, it has set your verbal at 86th percentile, and accordingly 90th percentile in DI. So the system is doing all that manipulation, all that calculation based on all the logic that has been built into it, so that you don't have to worry about doing that. Okay, so that you don't make wrong decisions. Now, at this point, if let's say you want to pick a different target split, right? At that point as well, the system gives you two alternate paths as well, right? Why? Because again, there were 105 total points, right? So the system has picked the recommended one for you, and then it has also given you two alternate ones. But at this point, let's say if you feel that, okay, I want to give in my own number, okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to put 85. I can get there. 85 in verbal, which is 96 percentile, 86 in quant, 92 percentile, and 81. Okay, now, the system tells you, it identifies that you are making a mistake by doing this. This is 80% more challenging. And why is it 80% more challenging? Because you are not capitalizing on your quant strength. You are actually you're actually not taking your quant strength further, and you are essentially making it very difficult for yourself. So the system is telling you, don't do this. Okay, so that's how smart the system is. Okay, so right now what we're going to do is we're going to take system's recommendation, because we know it's in our best interest to do that. We're going to click next here. Now what it's doing is it's essentially charting out your entire journey uh, based on your sectional scores here. Okay, so verbal, it gives you an overall picture now. Okay, in verbal, this is the journey that you have to make. You have to go from this 33rd percentile all the way to 86th percentile. In quant, the journey is a little bit shorter, 76th percentile to 95th percentile. Again, pretty significant. And in data insight, 66th percentile to 90th percentile. At this point, I want to draw your attention to this timed picture that it paints for you. Okay, look at this. It's not just telling you your destinations, your individual destinations in verbal, quant, and DI. It is also telling you how much time you're going to take to get there, and what are you going to do in those individual time segments. Look at these bars here. The orange bars here tell you stage one. What is stage one? Stage one is when you're going through the course. Now, in verbal, this student wasn't very strong, which means that this student needs to build their foundational skills, their conceptual understanding, their application skills, which is why the first 58 hours that they spend, they have to spend on stage one. Whereas in quant, they start off with this yellow band. And what is that yellow band? That yellow band is stage two, which means that they start off on Scholarinium platform, wherein they don't have to go through the entire course, because they already have a very solid starting point. So it's not really efficient for them to go through the concepts, to go through the application that they may already be aware of. So they start off with the cementing stage, which is stage two, and that's where they identify where their weak points are. And based on that analysis, they go into the course and they do only the relevant parts of the course. Okay, that's where they spend 29 hours doing stage one. Okay, but that's after identifying what gaps there are. And then test readiness, very, very important. These 25 hours for quant, 20 hours for verbal, 9 hours for DI. DI, same thing, because in DI, once the student has built their verbal quant skills, they are at a higher level there. So in DI, based on the information that we entered up front, they do stage two first, then stage one. Okay. Now, have you ever imagined this kind of study plan? Did you think that this kind of study plan was possible? Or now that if you have this kind of study plan, can you imagine the kind of stress that it takes away from your preparation? Because now you don't have to think about what it is that I have to do. You have a very, very structured, one step at a time path given to you. Okay, that's why I say each one of you deserves this kind of a study plan. Okay, now we are just scratching the surface here. Next, what we do is we look at the subsectional abilities. Okay, right now we looked at the sectional abilities. So now what we're going to see is where the system is going to fine tune its recommendations now based on the subsectional abilities, which is what you're going to get once you take the Sigma X mock. Okay, so let's put this here, and I'm going to get verbal time milestones. So the time estimates now will become more fine-tuned because the system now knows what your relative strength in what your strength in CR is, and what your ability in CR is, and what your ability in RC is. Okay, so you have to spend about 4.3 weeks. I'm going to accept that. Okay, again, this is based on spending 20 hours a week. Don't worry, you can change that as well. But first, let's do quant. Okay, so quant again, we were at a higher level again, and this is all of this data is at your disposal when you take Sigma X mock test. Okay, so that's why first step is to take Sigma X mock test, which is available free of charge to everyone. The first one. Okay, now the last one is data insights. I'm going to breeze through that. Okay, the student was pretty good in quant, so maybe they already prepared for the classic test. Okay, so TPA. Again, TPA requires verbal as well, and verbal they are not so good. So yeah, these are my relatives. These are my the abilities from each of these. Now, let's do accept here, and we are now at the final journey over here. So this is your first chart. This is the chart that you had seen, which has been modified, and then you see your subsectional abilities, the entire roadmap that you see. Now we're going to see your time commitments. Okay, you can also change your subsection sequence. Let's say if you want to, you can start with verbal and then move to quant and then do DI. Okay, but the system also allows you to maybe start with quant first, right? Why? Because you may want to maybe fine tune your quant first and then move to verbal, which requires a lot more deep dive, right? And then you need to do DI. But the system tells you if you want to do DI first, absolutely not a good idea. Okay, so let's go with the recommended one. I want to get the hard stuff done first. I want to build my verbal abilities first, right? So I selected that. Now this is where things get very interesting. You can change your time commitments per day, okay, at an individual day level over here. Maybe on Monday it's really hard for you because uh, Mondays are usually longer, Tuesdays also 2 hours, but midweek maybe you can spend Wednesdays a little bit lighter, Thursdays 3 hours, Fridays you want to just crank it up, so Fridays you can spend 4 hours, right? You are in that high intensity mode on Fridays. Weekends, you can spend more time. You can maybe spend 6 hours on Saturday. Sunday you want to take it a little easy so that you're ready for the new week. So yeah, so you can do all these time adjustments on a day by day, on every day basis. Okay, and that's the level of flexibility. And then you can figure out when is it that you want to start with this, and you have all your milestones set, and you basically accept that, right? And this is your entire study plan. Okay, and you can then understand your entire journey. What are you doing in Jan? What are you doing in Feb? What are you doing in March? And then you basically look at the details of each and every section over here. What are you doing in verbal test readiness? Then you understand your quant journey. So it's everything and everything built for GFE, quant test readiness. Okay, so I am going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to ask you as to what you thought of this. Okay, all e-GMAT students, you need to absolutely build this. Okay, where did the chat go? One second. Somebody asked me, is this available for people who don't have the e-GMAT, who are not as yet e-GMAT students? Yes, it is available. If you schedule a call with our customer team, with our strategy team, you can definitely they can help you build this. However, you will need to have taken the mock test. So definitely take the Sigma X mock test, schedule a call, and I can give you the link for that scheduling so that you can, yes, Ashima, I will do that. Okay. So absolutely remind me if I forget to do that. Okay. So, okay, Raghuveer, that's good. If you have already done it, very, very good. Now, really something that I want you all to understand. Each one of you deserves such a personalized study plan. Do you guys agree? This is the level of clarity that each one of you needs to have. Okay. So definitely invest that kind of time before you begin your prep. Okay, and I'm going to show you a lot more personalization that e-GMAT platform allows you to do. Okay, so this is just we were just at the first step, right? And again, because we have these purpose-built platforms for each purpose-built tools for each and every stage of your learning, as I said, it's a no-brainer that we have accounted for lion's share of success on the GMAT over the years, right? It's not just for 1 year, it's not just for 2 years, it's over the years we have accounted for lion's share of successes published on GMAT Club. What does that mean? And this is how what that success looks like. We have e-GMAT students have accounted for 60% of all reviews published on GMAT Club, and the remaining 40% are all test prep companies combined. Okay, so it's a no-brainer. And as you go through this session with me, and as you look at a lot more personalization and how is it that we provide you with the language to communicate, to understand how you can ace application, you will see that this is a no-brainer. Okay. Um, okay, so are all the course materials in the platform, or we need to find some outside materials to study as well, Harshit? Everything is on the platform. Okay, you don't need to get anything from anywhere else. Can you help us with the things we should be prioritizing for GMAT? Pratyush, I'm not sure what that question exactly means, but if you can put that question in the Q&A pod, I could definitely take that towards the end of the session. Okay. In fact, we conduct this. I believe where you're going with this is how do you prioritize your GMAT given your work, given your family. I think that's where you're getting at, but definitely we can talk about that. I Okay, Harshit, and I can okay, all right. So let's carry on with this. How can we access GMAT Club Test for EG Matters? Write to us at support at e-gmat.com so that they can help you with that, Prakhar. Okay. All right. So what are we going to do next? Next, we are going to look at the arithmetic, the subject matter part of the session. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to give you 6 questions. Okay, each of these questions are from is from official source. Okay, but not from the mocks, because I don't want to give you any mock question and then when you take the mock you feel you have already looked at that question. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to impact your mock test result. Okay, these are going to be hard questions, but on easy concepts. Why easy concepts? Because we have different people at different stages of their prep in this session. So because there are two aspects to a question. One is the concept that it tests, and the other is the application. Okay, so what I have done in this session is that I've given you questions which are very difficult. Okay, 700 plus level, but the concepts that they test are relatively easy. Okay, so that we level the playing field over here, so that nobody has so people who are not way ahead in their prep, they don't feel disadvantaged while solving the question because they don't know the concept, right? So it's going to be easy concepts, right? For example, when two negative numbers are multiplied, the result is positive. It's going to be concepts such as those. Okay, the session flow will be, we're going to do sprint we're going to do 2 sprints. Okay, you're going to first solve 3 number properties questions back to back. Okay. Then we're going to discuss each of those number properties questions one by one. Then what I'm going to do is give you a demo of our personalization engine for quant. So I'm going to give that. And then it's going to be similar to the demo that I gave you for the study plan. And then sprint number 2 will be with 3 word problems questions. Again, exactly same thing as we're going to do for number properties. Okay. Okay, again, our focus is going to be on application. Now I see that a number of you are posting your questions in the chat pod. Please don't do that. Please put those questions in the Q&A pod. Why? Because while you are solving questions, I can be responding to those questions through the Q&A pod. Right, in the chat, I routinely clear out the chat, so your questions may get lost. Okay, so just copy these questions, put those in the Q&A pod. Okay, Indranil and John, so please do that. Okay, yeah, you've done that. Very good. Okay, so now some housekeeping tips for how are you going to answer these questions. So far the session going well? Yes, no? Okay, good. Now You see the poll here, question one, right? I want you all to click on still solving. We have 68 participants here. So, and because as I said, we are all at different levels in our prep, right? So I don't want to give you a time constraint in solving each of these questions, but we can't really give inordinate amount of time to solve these questions because we do have an agenda to finish here, right? So as soon as about 50% of people who have clicked on still solving solve the question, I will give you a 15-second or a 20-second warning. Okay. So let's get more people. Right now I have 31 here. Let's take this number to 35. Okay. So every time I give you this poll, you should click on still solving and then I'm going to show you the question. Okay. Good. 35 it is. So here is the question. Go ahead and solve it. All right. Last 10 seconds. Okay. I'm going to end this poll. And I'm going to open up the next question. Remember, it's a sprint. So let's click on still solving. Okay, good. And I'm going to now show you the next question. Here it is. Go ahead. All right, last 15 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll here. And here comes the next question, question number 3. This is the last question in this sprint. Click on still solving, please. Okay, go ahead and solve this question. All right, last 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll. Okay, how were these questions? We're going to go into the solution mode now, but how were these questions? How was the experience? Second was tough, very tough, hard, mid. Did anybody find these questions easy? That, these were slam dunk? Scary, okay. Good. I'm glad that you guys are feeling this way because, again, these are difficult questions, right? These are your 700 level questions, and I'm still talking in GMAT classic terms, right? And that's okay, right? That's why we are here. And what you're going to now see is what is the most optimum way of approaching these questions, okay? And what are the skills that you have to build, okay? So that's why we are here. So good. I'm really happy to see that honest responses here, right? Okay, so let's talk about the first question here. What is it saying? From the consecutive integers -10 to 10 inclusive, so both of these numbers are included, right? 20 integers are randomly chosen with repetitions allowed. Okay, what is the least possible value of the product of the 20 integers? Okay, now how many of you read this question and felt, oh, I this is a probability and combination type of a question? How many of you felt that? Let me get a yes no poll here so that we can get a more objective response here. How many of you felt, and I'm going to clear this out, that this is a PNC type of a question? Some of you felt, right? Whenever you see the word repetition, this kind of gets you in your, it just triggers that PNC, and automatically when it triggers PNC, it means it's a difficult question, right? So first of all, don't have those preconceived notions. Okay, now just read everything in a very structured manner, and I'm going to show you what it is, how is it that you should have processed this question. So -10 to +10 inclusive. So you write those numbers down, not each of those 21 numbers, but just write down -10 to -10 to -1, then 0, 1 to 10, which means there are 21 numbers. And then draw some inferences over here that, we can actually select 20 numbers and randomly chosen numbers with repetitions allowed. And now when it's saying with repetitions allowed means that we can actually take the same number 20 times, right? we can pick same number 20 times. So you're not processing anything. You're not doing any calculations. You're just thinking, okay, what does this question mean, right? What is the scenarios? What are my constraints here? Okay. Next, what you do is you then think about, okay, what I have to find is I have to figure out the least possible value of the product. Okay. Now you think about, okay, when what leads to the product of a number. Okay. What leads to a number being smallest product. Okay. It's both the sign and the magnitude, right? Because here you have negative numbers also, you have positive numbers also, right? So I have to be cognizant of both the sign and the magnitude. Okay. That's the next level of thinking that you should have had. Okay. Now what you have to see is, how can you make negative sign? So tell me this thing. You have 20 integers. How many integers will you pick so that you have a negative sign of the overall product? Tell me that. Odd number of integers, absolutely, right? You can pick one odd integer and remaining 19. So one negative integer and remaining 19 positive integers. You're going to get a negative product, right? So right now all I'm asking is, what does it take to make negative sign of product of 20 integers? The answer is that odd number of integers need to be negative. Okay, that odd number could be 19, that odd number could be 1, that odd number could be 3, right? Right, that is the first thing that you do. Now the next thing is, your magnitude has to be as high, as large as possible. Why? Because you need the smallest product. Okay, which means that you are going to take the largest number possible here 20 times. You're going to repeat that 20 times. Okay, what is the largest? So essentially what you can pick is, you can pick 19, you can pick 19 tens, okay, and just one negative 10, or you can pick, right? So any of these combinations. So you can pick 19 positive tens and one negative 10, or you could have picked 19 negative tens, or 19 negative tens and one positive 10. You could have picked that as well, right? Is this point clear? So here are my cases here. Yeah. You guys can hear me, right? Good. So you can pick 19, negative 10, and which means one needs to be positive 10. This is one case. Another case could be, you could put 19 positive tens and one negative 10. Okay. You have to pick as many tens as possible because you need your magnitude to be as high as possible, right? And that's the reason why, and because you can pick you can pick same number again and again, right? Repetition is allowed. Got it? So you have decoupled your problem was to the question asked you to make as small a product as possible, right? Small product means it has to be negative sign, right? That's a possibility here. And when you are dealing with small products in negative sign, that means you have to be as much towards the left hand side of the number line as possible, right? And that's what, now how do you get towards the extreme left hand side of the number line possible with the numbers that are here? You basically take up number that has the largest magnitude. What has the largest magnitude? Negative 10 and 10 both, right? So 10 is the largest magnitude here. Got it? Okay, so what's your answer? Your answer is negative 10 to the power 20. Negative, outside the parentheses, 10 to the power 20. Now, why did you guys falter here? What step did you not understand? And I'm going to broadcast your results as well, because this is a very important thing. You understood the solution, right? You understood the solution. Now the next part is, first you solve the question, then you understood the solution. Now the next part is, you need to critique. You need to sit back, okay? You have your solution In your scratch pad, you have the official solution here on the screen. Now you have to think about what step did you falter at. And that's what goes into your error log, because that is what is going to tell you where is it that you're faltering. Okay. So the first thing over here was visualizing all the numbers. The second thing over here was inferring what does it mean for the product to be the smallest. Third thing was again inferring that given the numbers that we have, what kind of selections can we make? Okay, so now I want all of you to tell me which step did you falter at, because only 23% of you got this question wrong. Okay, inference, which inference, so? Because this is where I'm imparting to you the language that you need so that you can fine tune your application. I missed that we can take one positive 10. I just took all negative 10 and positive 1. Oh, you took one, you took positive 1. Okay. Okay, all right. Ayushman, so that means you didn't focus on the magnitude aspect. I took 10 negative ones and multiplied by 0. Okay, Raghuvir, so you didn't draw the inferences, both the inferences. Okay. All right. So that's fine. That's good. And this is how when you're learning on your own, when you're solving questions on the e-GMAT platform, that's the process that you need to follow. You solve the question utilizing your understanding, and then you go through the solution, and then you figure out, take a step back and you figure out why is it that you made a mistake. Okay. So a number of you seems like faltered here. You were not able to draw this inference. You were not able to split what does smallest product mean. Okay. All right. So let's practice this a bit more. I'm going to give you another variation. Okay. So Michael, you guessed 0 because you did not read randomly chosen component. I thought they were consecutive integers. Okay. So for you, it's the translation skill then, Michael. See how each one of you have faltered at different places, right? And that's what needs to go into your error log. When you're solving this question on your own, you should not just say, oh, I made a silly mistake, right? There is nothing like silly mistake. That silly mistake phrase needs to be kicked out of your vocabulary. Okay. Don't classify any mistake as silly mistake is what I would say. I tell all my students that. Okay, there's always a reason behind making a mistake, and till the time you don't get to that reason, you won't be able to rectify that reason. Okay, all right, so let's practice a little bit more over here. Okay, I'm going to give you this variation. Okay, no choices here. I just want you to apply what you have just learned, okay, on this set over here. Instead of negative 10 to 10, now the set is negative 10 to negative 11 to positive 10. Now what will you do? You know what? Let me not get the responses in the chat because other people would get influenced by it. I'm going to give you another poll here. So give me 1 second. Okay, go ahead. Tell me what's the answer to this one. All right, I'm going to broadcast the results. Okay, let me broadcast the results now. Interesting responses. So the correct one is that you pick negative 11 19 times and then you pick the next largest number, which is 10. Again, our principle is still the same. What's our principle? That we need to have odd number of negative numbers, right? And we need to have our magnitude as high as possible, okay? Right? Now, for magnitude being as high as possible. And so both of these conditions will be met if I pick negative 11 19 times, okay, and 10, positive 10, one time, okay. And that's what a number of you have said over here, but there are some wrong responses here as well. In fact, there are two wrong responses. One is 10 to the power 19 and negative 11 to the power 1. That's not correct. Why? Because now you haven't maximized your negative number. Okay, it should have been the other way around. 11 is higher magnitude, so you need to maximize that. So take 19 of those. Okay. Alex, if you take 11, 20 times, you are missing out on odd number of negative numbers. Diego, you're missing out on odd number of negative numbers. Okay, because if you're taking negative 11, 20 times, and the product is going to be positive, right? So there has to be, you need to have odd number of negative numbers in order to have a negative product. Okay, got it, Diego? So good. Again, what you saw over here was a same question, similar application on a slightly different question. Okay. And that's how you build your skills. Okay. Let's take up another question. Now, instead of negative 10 to 10, the set is negative 10 to positive 11. What will be the answer here? Let me erase this here and type in your answer in the Q and in the question pod in this poll here. Observe negative 10 to positive 11. Think about what is the magnitude there. Okay. Some of you are getting it, some of you are still not getting it. But majority of you are is majority of the class is getting. See, you need to have odd number of negative numbers, right? So that part you're getting. You're getting the 19 as the power and 1 as the power. That part is fine. But some of you are still not maximizing the magnitude. For example, the person who has said, there are multiple people who have said negative 10 19 times. Why would you take negative 10 19 times? You have to maximize the product, right? So you should take the larger number more number of times, right? Got it? Those of you who have made this mistake? Negative 10 multiplied by 19 times? No, it should. Pratyush, I didn't understand. What are you saying? Shouldn't it be 20 now? How it's still, even if it's no, how will it be 20? It has to be 19 and 1, right? Because you need to have 19 negative numbers and 1 positive number. If you take power only to maximize, then you are no longer getting a negative number. You're still making negative, you still need a negative number, right? The answer is that you take 11 19 times and negative 10 one time. If the question were, what's the largest possible product? Then you would have taken 11 20 times. But here, what you want is, what is the least, what is the smallest product? So you have to have a negative number there, right? The question is, what negative number you pick? Got it? Okay. So again, it's all logic. It's very, as long as you break down the question into smaller parts and you draw those inferences on your own, you will be able to solve these questions. but you have to be completely aware. You have to utilize the translation skills. You have to draw these inferences. You have to retrieve your concepts appropriately. Everyone with me? Because now I have another variation. So far, we had no constraints on how many of each number we could use, right? Repetition was allowed, right? So you could think about repeating the number. The kind of concepts that you retrieved were along those lines. The kind of processing that you did was guided by the question itself. If repetitions are allowed, now what I'm thinking is I need to have negative numbers, right? And I need to maximize the magnitude of the number, right? I need to maximize the magnitude. And I need to have odd, in order to get negative number, I need to have odd number of negative numbers. Okay. That's how you directionally went. Now look at this next question. This next question is that you need, and I want you to, so I'm not going to give you a hint. Read the question properly, and I'm going to give you the yeah, so you've already read this question. So, no, I don't think you've read this question. So, let me give you another poll here. Answer this question now. Concept is the same, okay? But the way you think about this question will be different. So, if you could all please click on still solving, that would be good. Let's get this number to 35, please. I haven't shown the question, Anushri. I'm still waiting for the number to get to 35, what I want. Okay, here is the question 1B. Solve this now. Pay close attention to the question stem. All right, I'm going to end the poll. Okay, so almost everyone has selected choice C, which is the correct choice. So good job. Was it hard, this question? Or after solving the previous question, you knew how to proceed with it? Good, good. Very nice, very nice. And that's the beauty of it. You learn, you're building your skills with the questions being shown to you of the right level. That's very important. Okay. Okay. So you need to have a course which goes, you need to be learning in the right order. Okay. So let's look at this now. Similar question, right? Negative 10 all the way to 10. So you always write that down. Okay. 20, so total of 21 numbers. Now we need 20 distinct integers. That's very important, which means that we cannot choose same number twice. Okay. Now, these 21 numbers, you have negative, 0, and you have positive, right? Now, negative, how many are there? 10, 0, there's 1, and positive, there's 10. Okay. Now, to have a small least product means that again I need to have I need to have odd number of negative numbers, right? So my right away what I would think is that, if I select 0, okay, if of these 20 integers I select 0, then in that case the product is going to be 0, right? So that's slam dunk. But I also want to consider, and because I've already seen that I have an answer choice which is 0, I will be tempted to mark that. Okay, which in this case happens to be correct answer. But there very well could be scenario in which that 0 is a trap answer choice. Okay, just because you get to that as the first thing. Okay, so you should always consider different cases over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take case number 2. And good point, Shitish and Jean. So let me show you case number 2. If we skip 0, and that's very important that we consider all cases. We need the product to be negative, right? We need the smallest product means that it has to be negative, or it may be 0 as well, right? So for the product to be negative, we need odd number of negative integers. We know that, right? So maximum, how many negative integers can I take? I can take 9 negative integers, right? And then after that, I have to take a positive integer because I can't take a 0, right? To get negative product, I have to have maximum 9 negative integers, right? The next one has to be a positive integer. So 9 negative integers, and I have 10 positive integers, but that still gives me only 19 integers. I needed the 20th integer, which means I need to take a 0, which means that my product can never be a non-zero product. Got it? So again, you are translating the question step by step. Okay. You are then retrieving the appropriate concept. And what's the appropriate concept? The appropriate concept here is that to get a negative number, you need to have product as a negative number, you need to have odd number of negative numbers, right? And then you're considering these cases. Okay. And that's how you are arriving at your answer. So again, that visualization is very important. If you don't visualize, if you don't break that down, that negative 10 to 10 are 21 integers, out of which 10 are negative. There is 1 0. There are 10 positive. Now you need to select 20 integers. And right off the bat, 0 is a small number, right? You say, okay, product is 0. Okay. But you also consider there is a smaller number than 0, which is a negative number. How can I get a negative number? By taking maximum 9 negative numbers. I can't take any more than that. I can't take any less than that because I need to, because those are the numbers that I have, right? So, which means I will be left with just because these are distinct numbers, right? So maximum I can take 9 negative numbers, right? So that's how you arrive at your final answer. Again, from conceptual standpoint, simple concept. It's really the application and two questions with similar concept being tested, but those variations are there which are allowing you to retrieve the concept at the appropriate level. Okay. Now somebody said, how can we practice this way with questions and its variations? Our process skill files have this inbuilt. We give you those kinds of variations. Okay, wherever required, wherever needed. Okay. Our concept files also teach that way. Okay, so again, apply that logical thought process. Very, very important. Read question bit by bit. Take notes. Okay. Some teachers say that you should be able to solve GMAT questions without putting pen to paper. I'm not one of those. Okay. For me, if I'm writing things down, I'm not copying them verbatim. When I'm writing things down, I'm processing things as well. And that is the part of processing that I'm doing. Okay. Maybe initially I may take longer notes. As my skill level, as my ability level gets enhanced, my notes may become shorter because I'm able to, because my neural connections have solidified to such a degree that I'm able to do a lot more processing in my head as I'm reading it. Okay. So don't restrain yourself from taking notes. You should take notes. Very, very important. Okay. So John, you do have a scratch pad allowed in the test environment. Okay. And again, as I'm saying, the way you take your notes will evolve as you're going through the prep. Okay, so if you are one of those people who uses, let's say, a note taking device such as Remarkable, or maybe if you have a notebook, maintain your notebook. And what you'll see is that as you are, so take your notes, so do your prep within using the same notebook, right? And see how your notes have evolved in each and every section as you go from one stage of prep to the next stage of prep. Okay, it's a really wonderful transition, and it shows the evolution that you will experience as you go through one phase of study to the next. Do they allow calculators in the exam? In the DI section, they do, but not in the quant section. Okay, so good, John. Yeah. All right, so let's now look at our next question, question number 2. Let's get the poll here. I'm going to broadcast this. So the correct answer here is choice C. Okay. Again, very interesting question. Now, what is it saying? It's saying that you have 5 integers between 10 and 99. Okay. Now, what do you know about these 5 integers? So as soon as you see this, what you do is you write down, this is a 2-digit number, right? If the integer is between 10 and 19, that 10 and 99, this means it's a 2-digit number, which means that in your notes, you write down these 2-digit integers. Okay. These are to be formed by using each of the 10 digits exactly once. So there is no repetition, okay? In such a way that the sum of the 5 integers is as small as possible. Now, what do you make of it? Sum of these 5 integers is as small as possible. What does this tell you in terms of what the numbers, what these 2-digit numbers will have? How will you make sure that the sum of these 5 integers is as small as possible? What's the inference? Tens place should have the smallest value. Absolutely. You, for the tens place, put as small digits as possible. Now, what are the digits possible for the tens place? Absolutely valid inference. Can you put 0 in the tens place? No. So what are the possible digits then? So right away, so this is a constraint that we have, right? This is the conceptual constraint. And all this processing, you need to ask these questions. Okay, this is how you basically read the question, take a step back, draw that inference, ask yourself, how can I have, what does, if the sum of the 5 integers has to be as small as possible, what does that mean for the tens digits in these 5 integers? That's the question that you have to ask. Okay. All right. Ayushman, you're saying 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Zero. How many times have you used the zero, Ayushman? Okay. So I place, so I'm just giving you examples here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Absolutely solid inference over here. Now, what about the the units digit now? The units digit will have the remaining numbers, right? 0, 0, 5, 0, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, how would you form the greatest possible integer? So you have satisfied the first constraint here that the sum needs to be as small as possible. For that, there were two things, right? That the tens place needs to be the smallest, as small as possible. So you've done that. Now, the next thing is, what is the greatest possible integer? The greatest possible integer will have 9 at the end. Absolutely. 5 at the tens place and 9 at the last place, right? Greatest possible in both tens and ones, right? Which means that 59 is the answer. What I've shown you over here is just an example, okay? But then when I see over here the greatest possible, that means I need to have highest possible number in both tens and ones place. And given the constraints that I have, 59 is the answer. Now tell me, is there anything complicated in this question? Now that you've seen the solution, okay, Samagra tens. Well, no, tens is written as TENS. And again, this is actual GMAT question. SN, why can't 89 be the answer? Because you have this constraint here. Sum is as small as possible, which is why, again, you have to draw those inferences as you're solving the questions. Because if you don't draw inferences as you are reading, you will make these mistakes. Okay. And this is a very important skill set, and that this skill is required across all the sections. A number of times, students think they have to read the question fast so that they can get to the processing. How many of you feel that way? I have to read the question fast because it's a time test. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to solve the question in time. That's the biggest mistake that you can make. Okay. You have to, again, remember the goal. The goal is to be able to answer the questions correctly, right? For you to be able to answer the question correctly, you have to read the question slowly. As you are reading, you need to be able to draw those inferences. Okay. So, very, very important. So, Michael, you said it's a complicated question to parse in 2 minutes. Again, if you read it slowly, if you draw inferences as you are reading, you will not fall in such traps. Okay. So Cyril and Anne, and thank you, Samagru, for helping out here. Cyril and Anne, it's not 50. Why? Because read the question. The question is saying what is the greatest possible integer, right? So greatest possible integer will be with the greatest possible number in both tens and ones place. Some should be smallest, absolutely. But and remember here, so it's a good question. Some has to be smallest. And remember, you have to make your numbers using the integers that are using the digits that are there, right? And you cannot do any repetition. If you make 50, let's think about 50. There is this 9 left. That 9 has to be placed somewhere else, right? And because you have to use all these 10 digits, you have these 10 places here and you have 10 digits. This 9 has to be placed somewhere. Exactly, Beatrice. So might as well put the 9 at the 50, making it the greatest number. Absolutely, Beatrice. You got it right. And does that make sense? Okay. All right. So, guys, in this set of questions that we have for number properties specifically, these are very logic based questions with simple concepts. Okay. You would hardly even notice any specific conceptual knowledge that is there, right? Very, very basic understanding. But what this shows you, and that's why these are very good questions to show you the level of analysis you need to do as you get in the rhythm of solving such questions. Because as the concepts become more involved, for example, LCM, GCD, or divisibility rules, at that point in time you need to have that strong grasp of concepts. But if you master approaching the questions in this manner, then you will be able to combine, you will be able to solve those questions which require higher level of conceptual understanding, because you will have your process set there. Okay, so it's very important to understand the importance of translation, and these are the process skills which you will see applicable across all the question types in arithmetic, in algebra, okay, and then in DI as well. Translate, assimilate information, simplify we haven't seen yet, but then drawing those inferences, very important. Okay, all right, so now let's move on to our last question here in this section. Okay, so let me show you the screen, the poll here. So choice D has been selected as the most popular choice. And I know people, 50% of folks selected choice D as the correct answer. The correct answer here is C. And I can tell you the reason why they selected choice D, and mark my words here, is because you forgot to make a note of the twos. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, just and this is the level of analysis that needs to be there, so that as soon as we see that an expert needs to have, that as soon as you see a choice, you can tell, oh, this is the reason why these people have selected this. And that's that faltering point analysis. Okay. So let's solve this question together. Product of all prime numbers less than 20 is closest to which of the following powers of 10? Now, tell me, what do you make of, so what are all the prime numbers? We're going to write those down. Okay. All these prime numbers, how many of you wrote down these prime numbers? Good, very good. All right, now, how do we have to multiply all these numbers to find the product? Is that what the GMAT is expecting you to do? Okay. What skills is GMAT testing you? What is being tested here? One is your knowledge of prime numbers, that's for sure. Okay, that's the conceptual knowledge, which a second grader also has. Grouping, approximation, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what is the principle and how do we know that estimation is okay? What is giving it away? By the way, I must say, I'm enjoying conducting this session. You guys are a very, very interactive batch, and it's really fun conducting this session with you all. Word is closest, yes. And then what else do you see? Closest, absolutely. What else do you see? Powers of 10, right? These are order of magnitudes different, right? Powers of tens, absolutely. Okay, so these are the observations that you have to do, and using those observations, you have to draw inferences, right? Okay, so we have drawn the inference that approximation is okay, right? And now what we are going to do is we are going to say, okay, from estimation standpoint, how are we going to do that? Okay, so let's look at this. What is going to be my power? What is going to be my technique of grouping? Any ideas? What is going to be my technique of grouping? It's magic of products close to 10 or 100. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, look at this. 5 and 2 will give me a 10. Okay. Now, let's look at 7 and 3. If you group 7 and 3, that gives you 21, which you can approximate to 20. Good, Samagru. Very good. Very good, Michael. Then the next one, 11. I don't have to make a product now. I can just approximate 11 to 10. 13 also I can approximate to 10, right? Because again, yeah, right? 17 and 19. 17 I'm going to approximate to 20. 19 I'm going to approximate to 20. Now what comes out? What comes out is 10 times 20 times 10 times 10 times 20 times 20. How many zeros are there? There are 6 zeros. But you have these twos over here, and these are the twos that students who selected choice D missed out on. Is that right? Alex, Akshat, AR, Aurel, Barbara, Beatrice, Drishti, Joy, all of you selected D. John, who else? Matthew, Michael, Rakshita, right? You missed the twos. So, oh, Samagra missed 19 as prime. That's okay, Samagra. It's okay to basically miss that right now. It's absolutely fine. Next time you will not miss it. Okay. Okay. So again, I got C, but I saw everyone chose D, so I chose D. Okay, Michael, don't do that. All right. So, but was the broadcast results on? I thought I turned that off. If it was on, then my apologies, but it was on. Okay. My apologies. Okay. But again, let's not get swayed. You need to trust yourself. Well, I should have taken credit for that little experiment that I did. Okay. So don't miss out on the twos. See, because what that does is, because that's what GMAC is testing you on. Okay, how close, how much attention to detail do you pay? Okay, you've done the hard work. And at the end, if you missed out on the tools, then you were just careless here, right? And I won't even say you were careless. You didn't think about the numbers that you saw. You were in a rush, and don't be in that rush. And that happens specifically when you have multiple choice questions, because you see, you come across an easy answer. 10 to the power 6 was an easy answer, and you see that in the choices and you think that's the right choice. Okay, those are all traps. Got it? Now, there are other ways of doing the combinations as well, doing the grouping as well. Okay. The other ways could be over here again, 2 and 5 are together, 7 and 3 are together. You could also take 11 and 19 together. Okay. And the product of that would be 200. As Michael said, we can take products of multiples of tens or hundreds. You could take 13 and 17 together. The product will be 200. Again, that's only for those of you who feel very comfortable with numbers and with products. But the previous method over there, in rounding off 11 and 13 to 10 and 17 to 19 to 20, that's perfectly fine. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is, there is no room for not spending the time on the question and not drawing the inferences, but there is very much room definitely exists on selecting the way you do such manipulations. You can do manipulation in this way by doing the grouping, or you can manipulate by taking product in this way. Okay, and these are the ways that you see what makes sense for you, right? So there's no hard and fast rule that you have to use one method or you have to use the second method, but there is definitely a hard and fast rule that you have to read slowly, you have to translate, you have to draw inferences as you go along. Absolutely, John, you can do that. Okay. All right. And when I give you the demo for the base architecture, remind me, I'm going to show you how we build these basics. In fact, that's the next part anyways. How we build these basics and the magic of 2 and 5, I'm going to show that to you. Okay? So, we added to our language the manipulation process skill as well. Okay? So, do you guys feel that with this translate, infer, visualize, manipulate, you're getting a language? Do you guys agree with me on that? And there are certain parts of the vocabulary that I want you to eliminate, which is nothing like silly mistakes. Okay, that doesn't exist, right? I want you to start using. I don't want you to say, "Oh, I answered this basics question wrong." Okay, you have to be very specific and say in saying, "I answered this question wrong because I was not able to manipulate," or "I answered this question incorrectly because I wasn't able to draw this inference." And that inference has to be very specific. When you put that specificity in your error log, that's when your error log becomes a living document that helps you that helps you improve your skill set. Okay. All right. So, how can you become an arithmetic champ? Okay, what's the plan here? Again, you have to first gain your conceptual mastery, then your process skill, then you have to master everything. Okay, learn the concepts, and I'm going to show you how master the application. What does that mean? Learn the concepts and application. This part happens in your course, and this is the stage one that we talked about. The orange part, remember in your study plan, the orange part, that is the stage one. That's what you see over here. Okay, what you need over here is consistency. Okay, I don't want you guys starting on a module and today not coming back to it tomorrow or day after tomorrow and then coming back to it 2 days later. Don't do that. When you start a module, finish it at a stretch. I don't mean that you finish it within the 2 hours of your study session, no, but don't have gaps within a module. Okay, in fact, you shouldn't have gaps in your preparation at all. Okay, 1 day gap is okay in a week, but no more than that. Okay, unless it's extenuating circumstances, and when that happens, come back and do revision. Don't just start working on the next available topic. Okay, don't do that. Now, the next part over here, the yellow line, the yellow bar that you saw in the plan, that is your Scholaranium platform. That is stage 2 over here. This is where you master the application. Okay, and the metric for that is you need to get to 60% accuracy in hard questions. That's a requirement. And you do this right after you finish stage 1. A number of students skip this step. They think they'll come back to the practice platform after finishing all the stage 1. That is a very, very big mistake. So, all the e-GMAT students, please make a note of it. As soon as you're done with stage 1, you need to do stage 2 for that particular section, for that particular course. Okay. And it takes about 2 to 3 days to do stage 2 if you are doing it properly. And that's very, very intensive. Jean, if you got 20% on hard word problem cementing yesterday, that's okay. It's okay. You have to fill the error log. Do that error log very, very carefully. Okay. Again, think about it this way. These cementing quizzes, if you are failing there, that's a good thing. Okay. Stage 2 is cementing, Diego. Stage 2 is after you've learned all the concepts, all the application in stage 1 in the course, that's when you go to Scholaranium platform. Remember, I said that for each and every stage, we have purpose built tools. Okay. That's where you go to Scholaranium platform, and I can show that to you right now. And that's where you practice questions. Okay. Using the right methodology. Yes, so there is an error log format for every for every course. There is a specific error log, and that's there in the stage 1 course. Okay, so cementing your metric is 60% accuracy in hard questions, and you can get there. As John said, he's at 20%. That's okay. Within the next 2 days, if he practices well, then he will be able to get to that accuracy. Okay. Again, you have to do that strategic pausing. So again, the strategic review, and we can talk about that later. Then the last step is test readiness. This is where you do test readiness, and this is where I want each one of you, when you get to test readiness, okay, write to our support team so that we can give you a specific plan to follow for test readiness. Okay. All right. So at this point, I'm going to give you a demo of PACE, and I want each one of you to pay close attention to this so that number of questions bank and Scholarinium is fixed. We have plenty of questions, and I'll give you and I'll show that to you right now. You would not fall short of questions at all. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share again. Second monitor. Guys, when I share my screen, you can always make it full screen, right? You guys know that, right? Okay. Are you seeing the course menu here? So I've logged into a student account here. Okay. Now, what you see over here is word problems module. Okay. We have this PACE view for quant, which stands for Personalized Adaptive Course Engine. Okay. Now, remember, when I talked about your study plan, I said that for the example that we had taken was a student who is better in quant than in verbal. And we said that the student doesn't need to go through the course first. The student first figures out where the problem areas are, and then they come to the course. Now, let's say if the student has figured out from Scholaranium that their problem area is word problems, right? Or right, so what they are going to do is, it doesn't mean that they have to go through. Let's take up a very specific thing. Let's take a percent change problems. Okay, the system has said that you've made mistakes in in percent change concepts, questions involving percent change. Now, when that student comes here to the course menu, it's not that they have to go through the entire module. They still can do a lot more personalization even at that level. Okay. What they're going to do is they're going to take this GMAT skills diagnostic quiz. They're going to see how well they perform there. Then they're going to take a concept level diagnostic quiz as well for the concept of percent change. They're going to see how they perform there. Okay. If they do well in that, then they don't have to go through these concepts at all. The system tells them, look, you've shown conceptual clarity here, conceptual excellence. You don't need to waste your time doing this. you should simply work on your GMAT skills for additional practice. They are going to give that feedback as well, because this student over here scored 100% in percent change GMAT skill diagnostic as well. So all they needed was a little bit of brushing up, which they're going to get practice on once they go through this. Okay, so that is the level of personalization that happens when they are doing the course as well. For example, here in work related stuff, they did the diagnostic quiz, they got a 33%. Then they took diagnostic quiz for concepts, right? In the concept level diagnostic quiz, the questions are going to be a lot easier, right? They got 100%. The system told them, you don't have to go through these concept files because you have scored. It also gives you the reason, right? Because you've scored 100% in such questions, you don't have to go through it. But because the student scored not as well in word problems, GMAT skill question, in work GMAT skill questions, now the system is saying, do the process skill files first, then do the GMAT skill files first, then next. And what are these process skill files? Again, in these process skill files, the student is solving um, GMAT level questions, but with reduced difficulty level. So think of process skill files as files in which there are medium level questions, okay? And then they basically do a guided activity here, which is a learning activity. Then they implement those learnings right away in this practice quiz, okay? Then they go through the GMAT skill files. And then again, whenever you learn something on the platform, you right away practice that, so that there's that revision that happens right away. There's that active recall that happens right away. When you do that, that's when the neural connections that were formed when you were doing this learning activity, those neural connections become really, really solid. And again, which is where when I told you that when you're doing a particular module, don't leave it midway. This is what I meant, okay? If you, let's say, did this learning activity one on one day and then you didn't come back to it 2 days later as well, that means that your neural connections that were formed while doing this activity 8.9 would have already dimmed a bit, quite a bit, which is why when you do the practice quiz one, it doesn't have that same impact as it would have had you done this practice quiz right after doing the learning activity. Does this make sense? And again, overall, if you see, by through this pace engine, this student was able to stave off 9 hours out of the 34 hours that he would have taken to do this course. Okay. Similar thing over here with number properties. The student was able to again shave off 9 hours. Okay. That means a lot, right? So about 20 hours were shaved off. So 1 week of work he didn't have to do. Why? Because of the space implementation that is there in each and every quant course. Okay. Now, some of you were asking about the number of questions that are there in Scholaranium. So let's quickly take a look at that. So again, you have 351 questions here. Now, as the student does more and more mocks, questions get released from those mocks as well. So you will never be in the dearth of questions. You have 3 medium cementing quizzes, you have 4 hard cementing quizzes, likewise 3 medium quizzes, you have 3 hard cementing quizzes. So more than enough quizzes that you would need. Okay. And again, the stats of the student is doing decently well. Yeah. So again, the student is still preparing right now. So all right. So I'm going to stop sharing now and go back to this screen. So what do you guys make of the PACE architecture? Do you guys deserve to be learning quant utilizing PACE? Samagra pace is not there in verbal. And to be honest, it's for verbal, again, people who do require skill set building in verbal, they have to go through the foundational stuff, which is absolutely a requirement, because verbal, there are fewer concepts, especially now that SC is gone, CRRC, there are fewer concepts and more of applications. So the kind of personalization that happens in verbal as well as in DI happens by virtue of you building your personalized study plan. So when you do your personalized study plan, if your starting ability is at a higher level, then the system recommends that you do cementing stage first, and from there you identify the pain points and the modules that you need to go through, right? So that's the personalization that is required for verbal and for DI. Why? For the simple reason that there aren't that many concepts to be taught in both verbal and DI. It's primarily application. In quant, that's a very different thing. In quant, there is a lot more conceptual understanding that needs to happen. Okay? Does that make sense? So there's personalization across the board, right? And that starts from you taking a solid Sigma X mock attempt, okay, and then building your study plan there. And rest you just leave to the platform that has been built, okay. So again, when you think about all of this stuff, the way we teach, the way we plan the entire thing, the tools that are available, it's not a surprise that we account for that EG matters account for 60% of all success that has been posted, right? Now this is a student who says a pace helps everyone, right? The pace architecture helps you identify what you need to focus on. People starting at 42 quant may end up wasting half their time, right? And that's not a good thing at all, right? Likewise, when you already have a high quant score, you ask the question, what will it take to get a perfect score? And the course answers that. So the space engine is built for everyone, whether you are starting at the basic level or you're starting at a much higher level. It's built for everyone. Thank you, Caution. I love that. I'm in love with Pace. I too love Pace. Yeah, it's one of our I mean, every tool that we have built, I just fall in love with each and every tool that we have built because it solves that need that our students have, right? The diagnostic test and Scholaranium told me where I needed help. The process skills, especially consider all cases and drawing inferences, filled in the needed gaps. Okay, so process skills not only helped me to do that, to do what, but allowed me to answer questions, even the hardest of the questions, in less than 2 minutes, and that's very very critical. Okay, so overall, again, if you were to see, and I don't know, so I just took that screenshot, so you can see the number of hours that have been saved because of base engine, and that's absolutely mind-blowing. So again, you have to achieve mastery one step at a time, and for each and every step we are there to help you. Okay, now, how do you evaluate ability? That's very important. Okay. Many a times, what you get is an overall accuracy score, and that never gives you a complete picture. Okay. Now, Jean just mentioned that he went through the hard cementing quiz and he scored 20%. Absolutely fine. People go through those pain points. Okay, that's very very important. Okay, so you will go through those valleys, and you have to bring yourself out from the valleys, okay, and that is where you need that momentum, you need that commitment to yourself that I am going to do it, and you need to have that perseverance that I am going to fill my error log. It's going to be hard these 2 to 3 days. For every cementing you need 2 to 3 days. When I say cementing, for word problem cementing, you need 2 to 3 days. For CR cementing, critical reasoning, you need 2 to 3 days, right? So all of that is very, very important. Okay. Let me just take Jean's question. I finally realized that OG questions come from mocks after we do them. No, OG questions don't come from mocks. No, all of our Scholaranium platform has questions which are built by us. No Scholaranium question. Oh yeah, Scholaranium questions come from yes. So we have a basic set of questions which are there, which is what you saw, about 400 of those, right? And then after you take each mock, more questions are released. Okay. So, Jean, please write to us. Okay, I want to make sure that you are preparing in the most effective that you're preparing in the most effective way. Okay, write to us at support@e-gmat.com. Okay, we'll take a look at my strategy team. Will take a look at your account and give you appropriate guidance. Okay, anyone, if you have any student, if you have any questions about your prep, okay, write to us. Don't shy away from doing that. We have a 5-person strategy team, we have a 3-person customer support team. We have a 4-person, no, five-person subject matter team who's there, whose sole job is to make sure that we give you the right kind of guidance. So write to us, okay? All right, now, um, yeah, so this is what I was talking about. When you see this accuracy of 79%, which is what most platforms would provide if they collate such data, but this 79% doesn't tell you much, right? Really, what the student, look at how well the student has done. In the last 15 attempts, the student scored 100%. Okay, that goes to say a lot about the student, right? That they have truly, truly improved. And look at the time to answer, right? And this is very important. As your accuracy increases, your time to answer, as your ability to answer questions increases, your time to answer automatically goes down. You don't have to worry about timing as a separate thing. Many a times students think that timing is a, it has to be considered together. No, timing will happen automatically. Okay, all right, so are we guys ready for word problem section? That will go faster. Okay, what have you learned so far? Tell me that. I've been talking a lot, but what have you learned so far? All right. A new language and interpretation skills. Good, Josephine. GMAT test the basics. Pace is effective. Good, Matthew. Um, Suk, learning concepts, translating and inferencing the question is the key. Absolutely. Would you get the recording of the webinar? Absolutely, you would. Within the next 12 hours. Jean, to be careful with the question stem coming back right before submitting the answer again and again. I learned it through mistakes. Okay, good. Also tracking your progress using Pace. Absolutely. Visualizing the questions. Samagra is Pace free. Well, Pace comes with your course purchase. Yeah, you don't have to pay anything extra to get Pace. If you have e-GMAT course subscription, you get Pace with it, right? Okay, so let's now get into our word problem section. And I hope you guys are not tired because these word problems questions truly require your complete focus. SN, really good. Just to stop for 5 seconds and process what exactly the question is asking. Okay. Now, we've been talking a lot about different things. Okay. I want you to just step back. Okay. Because you have to regroup right now. You have to get into that sprint. Just step back for a minute. Just close your eyes, assimilate everything that we have said. I'm going to just do a timer for 1 minute. Close your eyes, take a deep breath before we get into the next stage. Okay, because you're going to be solving questions one after another. These are taxing questions, again, difficult questions. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to start the timer now. Just close your eyes, take a deep breath for 1 minute, and then we'll start. All right, we are back, and I'm going to give you your question. So, can we get 10 more responses here, still solving? And I hope that you guys have regrouped now. Okay, good. This is your first question. All right, I am going to end this poll now because you guys have been taking way too long to answer this question. Okay, I'm going to end this poll. I think you guys must be tired as well. And Jean, can you please post that question in the Q&A pod? And Samagri, you too. I will definitely take that towards the end of the session. Okay, here's next question. And let me get the poll. Yeah, click on still solving, please. All right, I am going to give you the next question. Here you go. All right, I am going to end this poll now. 10 seconds. All right, and showing the last question now. Let's click on still solving. All right, here you go. All right, last 15 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll. Okay, so I see that how's this experience? We're going to go through each and every question. First, you tell me how was the experience, and then I'll tell you what to expect. All 800 plus. Now, these are difficult questions, but you also have to understand that you all are a bit tired. Okay, so I'm really kudos to you for giving these three questions a shot. Really pat yourselves on your back because that's the kind of perseverance that's required. Okay. Now, I don't want you to have unreal expectations. Frankly, there's a reason why I did number properties set first before doing the word problem set. Because again, if you think about it, word problems requires multiple additional layers of has multiple additional layers of complexity. There is more translation, there are more concepts to be applied, which means that whatever processing you did for number properties questions that were there in this session, you have to have much more enhanced level of application here for these word problems questions. Okay, even though the concepts are not that tricky at all. Okay, but there is that level of application which is inherent. Okay, so when I show you the solution here, Even if you don't get it the first time, don't worry about it. You will have the solutions. I will share the PDF of this presentation with you. You'll have the recording as well. When you get to word problem section, that's when you bring back these three questions. Okay, but right now, what I want, how I want you to perceive these, interpret all of this is that, again, draw the similarities between the process that we applied on number properties and the process that we are applying here, which is, again, your process skills oriented process. Okay, so let's get to this. Jorge's bank statement showed a balance that was 54 cents greater than what his records show. When you read this part, you need to pause. Again, remember, we have to read slowly. We need to interpret as we are reading. Okay. So when you read the statement, you need to write in your notes that the actual in the bank was greater than the self record. Okay. His bank statement showed a balance that was 54 cents greater than what his records showed, right? That's what you have to translate when you are writing your own notes. Okay. So this means also try to visualize, try to put yourself in that scene, or maybe become Jorge yourself, right? And think, okay, Jorge or I am keeping a self record. And by the way, according to my record, I have a smaller balance as compared to what I actually see in the bank. Okay. So again, visualizing yourself, putting yourself in that scenario really helps a lot. And that's going to help tremendously in both reading comprehension. I know I'm going towards verbal, and in data insights. Okay. Now, what's the next part over here? The next part here is that he discovered that he had written a check for X point YZ and had recorded it as X point ZY. Now tell me, based on this information, do you think that the actual payment was more or less than the recorded payment? Tell me that. He wrote the check for X point YZ. So it's not like he wrote the check for incorrect amount. He wrote the check for the correct amount, but he recorded it for a lesser amount. Okay. So the actual payment was actually less than, he recorded for a greater amount, right? So the actual statement payment was less than the recorded payment, right? Which is why his self record showed smaller balance as compared to the actual balance, right? Now, what are we doing here? What process skill is applicable here? Tell me that. Tell me what all process skills have we applied? Translation, what else? Inference, absolutely. Translation and inference. Visualization as well, because we are thinking about how, what is the balance, what is the actual payment, right? We are thinking about all that. Okay. Now, what we are doing is, after doing all this processing, now we come to the math aspect of it, wherein we write x point zy, x point yz is 0.54, and this is negative, right? We are subtracting these two, right? So this is where, so all of this processing happened without any math context, right? Here we are, this question might as well have been a verbal question for all we care about, because those are all the skills that we need to apply in CRRC as well. Those are the skills that we are applying for word problems as well. Those are the same skills that will be applicable for DI as well. Okay, the skills remain the same. Okay, right? Now, from this point on, the way you process this equation here requires your concept retrieval from quant. And what is a concept retrieval? It's the place value. 3.26 is written as what? 3 plus 2 over 10 plus 6 over 100. Everyone comfortable with this? Right? Right. Now you take that. You have to keep in that concept retrieval. How does that happen? That happens when you are learning the right way. Okay. So automatically this is going to happen. Now, what's happening is x minus x will anyway cancel out, right? X minus x is 0 here. Z over 10 plus y over 100, right? Minus y over 100 plus z over 100. sorry, minus y over 10. Let me get my pen. So this z is written like this. Okay. This y is written like this. Then this y is written like this. And this z is written like this. And this negative sign comes from the negative sign that we had there. And that is equal to what? Pi point 0.5, which is written like this, and point 0.04, which is written as 4 over 100. Now you have manipulated, you have translated all of this. Now you simply do the simplification. You take your LCM, you do the processing. This is now pure mathematical processing. What you arrive at is z is equal to 6 plus y. Anything complicated here? Tell me. Anything complicated here? Now that, see, a problem is difficult only when you don't break it down into smaller chunks. But when you break it down into smaller chunks, the problem becomes really simple. Okay. Now, what could be the value of z? Now, this is where it's asking you for could be the value of z. And what is the relationship that we have? Z is equal to 6 plus y. Okay. Now, what do? You consider all the cases. Okay. You consider y, you consider z. Okay. Now you put in if y is 0, 6 is z is 6. If y is 1, 6 z is 7. So on. If y is 4, then z is 10. Is z is equal to 10 possible? Absolutely not possible because it's a digit, right? It cannot be 10. So what the question asked was which of the following could be the value of z? Now you look at the possible values of z are anywhere 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now you see what is there in the answer choices. The answer choice is 6. E is the correct answer. Now you could have gotten similar question. What is the maximum value of z possible? The answer would be 9. Right? Similar processing is just towards the end when you come. You have to get to this table for sure. When you come to this table, then you simply look at what the question is asking and then you answer the question. Okay. So again, this part over here is pure translation and drawing inferences. Okay. This part over here is again doing concept retrieval and drawing inferences then. And then this part over there is doing the simplification. And then towards the end, visualizing what is z is equal to 6 plus y and applying the constraints. Okay. Ashima, what is the last part that you want me to repeat? Is it the z is equal to 6 plus y, that one? Selecting the value of z. So here again, the relationship that you have is, the relationship that has been given is that z is equal to 6 plus y, right? And what do you know about z and y? That z is a digit, y is also a digit, right? Now, what the question is saying is what could be the value of z, okay? So it's not saying what is the value of the z, because had that been the case, then there is no answer possible because z can take multiple values, right? Because why? Because z is equal to 6 plus y here, right? So what you do is you understand, you take different values of y, different possible values of y, and you start with 0. You have 0 as y, which means that z is equal to 6. You have, let's say, if y was 1, then z will be 7. If y is 2, z will be 8. If y is 3, z will be 9. If y is 4, then z will be 10, which is not possible, which means that only this set of values is possible. Now, what the question is asking is what could be the value of z, right? So you look at the answer choices 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's not possible for z. The only answer is 6. Got it? Yes, we check the possibility. Absolutely. But for that, you have to first figure out what are the given constraints, right? This z is equal to 6 plus y is very important for you to arrive at that. And then to create this table of possible values based on the constraints. Okay. What is the constraint? That y cannot be, that z and y cannot be more than 9. Right? That's the constraint because it's both of these are digits. Okay. Why 6? Because 6 is here now. Z is equal to 6 is one of the possible values. Ashima, I think you're getting a little tired here, and I absolutely understand why. Okay, so go back and see the recording of this one. Okay. Oh, that's okay, Ashima. Absolutely fine. All right. So now let's take a look at our next question here. Um, okay. The next question is pretty interesting. Again, you need to visualize yours. You need to immerse yourself in the scene. Um, let me see how many of you got this one right. Question number 5. The correct answer is choice B, which is, yeah, 23. So again, 1/5 of the class got this right. Well, 1/3 of the class couldn't finish the question, which is okay. Okay, again. Let's look at this one now. Yesterday, Candice and Sabrina trained for a bicycle race by riding around an oval track. So make the oval track and look at how I'm making this track here, right? They both began riding at the same time from the track starting position. So I have the starting position here. Now, whenever you see a distance type of a question, you always need to make what we call as a DST table, distance, speed, time. Okay. And all of this has been covered in detail in the distance module in word problems. Okay. Um, they both began riding at the same time from the track starting position. However, Candice rode at a faster pace than Sabrina, completing each lap around the track in 42 seconds. So, if let's say I were to assume the track distance to be one lap to be d meters, okay, in that case, the time that it took Candace to cover this d distance was 42 seconds. Sabrina took 46 seconds, while Sabrina completed each lap in 46 seconds, right? Now, um, yeah. So this is my table here. I can calculate the speed as d by 42 and d by 46. No problems till this point, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read what's next. How many laps around the track had Candice completed the next time that Candice and Sabrina were together at the starting point? Okay. Now what does this mean? What this means is there's a lot of inferences that you need to be able to draw from this. Okay. What it's saying is that the time, the scenario that they're talking about is that the time elapsed is the same. Okay. And complete laps are done by Candice and Sabrina. Both of these are inferences that you need to be able to draw. Okay. And if you're unable to draw these inferences, that's okay. When you do the distance module, you will build that skill set. You will go through the concepts, you'll go through the process skill file such that you'll be able to draw these two inferences without any problem. Okay. But these are, at this point, I want you to make a note that as you read this, you need to be able to you need to be able to visualize this, because remember, they are both at the same point. They started at the same point. They are both at the same point, which means that the time that they spent in getting to that scenario is the same for both of them, right? But the number of laps that Sabrina would have finished would be less than the number of laps that Candice would have finished. Why? Because Candice bikes at a faster pace, which means that for this scenario, I need to build my second DST table. Okay, that's very important. Okay, Candice and Sabrina. Now I'm going to assume that Candice did speed remains the same, right? D by 42. I'm getting the speed from the previous DST table. Okay. Time is something that I don't know right now, but distance is something that I know if I assume that N is the number of laps that Candice made and M is the number of laps that Sabrina made. Okay. So now I have the distance as ND for Candice and distance as MD for Sabrina. Now I can figure out my time. You have just any two values, you can figure out the third value in your DST table. Your time is distance over speed, which gives you 42n and 46n. Now the time is the same. Remember, time is the same here. So you equate the two, and what you get is 42n is equal to 46m, which means 21n is equal to 23m. Now, both n and m are integers, which means that the only way, and 21 and 23 don't have any common factors, right? So the only way that this equation stands is if N is 23, which is what the question is asking. How many laps around the track had Candace completed, right? So N is 23 and M is 21. That's the answer. Okay, so 23 is the answer here. Now, in this question, if you think about it, we have first translated, we have visualized it in the DST format, we have then drawn inferences, okay, and then we have drawn another inference here. Now, those of you who answered this question incorrectly, tell me which part did you falter at? Because that is what is going to tell you what you need to improve. DST table forming, then Jean, you need to go through the DST module, okay? Because then that's a conceptual issue from the standpoint of within the context of distance, speed, time, okay? Who else? I need more people to tell me where did they falter, because very few people got to the right answer. I took the LCM of time taken by Candice and Sabrina. Okay. So Akshat, you didn't go through the process. I think you were just trying to fit what seemed like a quick solution. You didn't understand the logic behind it. That's why you did this. Okay. You have to ask yourself, why LCM? Okay. So if you break it down in this format, right, there is no, you're doing everything logically, right? There is no, you're drawing inferences, you're not retrieving concepts which don't make sense to you, okay? If you did with the LCM manner, you have to understand why you did it that way, not because some other question was solved that way. Okay, as long as you can logically arrive at that, I am good with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. Okay, you need to be able to explain that logical thought process. Okay. Okay, well and good. All right, so now let's take a look at our last question here. This question requires significant level of visualization. Okay, so again, what we're going to do is we're going to read each part of the question statement. We're going to visualize that. We're going to draw inferences as we are reading. And that's a very, very critical thing about word problems questions. Okay, don't read the entire question statement question paragraph in one go. You need to be able to slow down, interpret each statement one by one, even each small, even a part of the sentence one by one. Okay, one side of a parking slot, a stall, is defined by a straight stripe that contains of n painted sections of equal length. Okay, why do I have this one? Okay. Okay, so let's not worry about this part right now. This some animation issue here. One side of a parking stall is defined by a straight stripe. So you draw this straight stripe over here. Okay, now that consists of n painted sections of equal length. So I have these n painted sections of equal length. Okay, with an unpainted section half as long between each pair of the consecutive painted sections. So this is where I get to the final thing here, that I have n painted sections here. Okay, and then I have these sorry, second, yeah, and then these unpainted sections which are half as long. So you can see that these unpainted sections are half as long as these painted sections. Okay, then what's the next thing? So if I assume, before I go to the next one, if I assume this to be 2D, the painted section, then that means this non-painted section will be D. Or if I assume the non-painted section to be D, then the painted section is 2D, and I have n number of painted sections. Next one is the total length of the stripe from the beginning of the first painted section to the end of the last painted section. So from the beginning here till the end here is 203. So this entire thing is 203 inches. Now I translate that in mathematical form. Okay, what is it? 203 is equal to n times 2d plus n minus 1 times d. Do you guys understand this translation? Why do I have n minus 1 times d? Because look at this. These two painted sections, if I just consider these two painted sections, two painted sections, only one unpainted section. If I consider these three painted sections, three painted sections, and you have two unpainted, right? So if you have n painted sections, then that means there's going to be n minus one unpainted sections. Okay. So again, translation and drawing that inference. Translating, so what we have done is we have translated the questions scenario into this visual format, and then we have translated that visual format into mathematical terms while drawing these inferences. Okay. Now, next, what we're going to do is we're going to simplify this. And when we simplify this, we get, this is where you're doing the math aspect here. 203 is equal to d into 3n minus 1. Okay. Now, what we have to do is we have to express this 203. This is where you don't lose hope, because what you see over here is d and n as two variables, and there is only one equation. So some of you may think, oh, I can't solve it further, or I don't have the tools to solve it further. And this is where you need to focus and you think, okay, translate it again. 203 is product of two numbers. So you translate, you do this back and forth translation, translating English to math and math to English throughout this thing. Absolutely, Samagri. So you have to express. First, you have to ask yourself, how do I, what does this equation mean? This equation means that 203 is product of two numbers. Okay. Now, what are these two numbers? How can I express 203 as product of two numbers? It's 29 and 7. That's it. No other combination possible. And again, remember, GMAT is not going to give you a problem that will have multiple solutions, right? So here, it's not that it has given you 204 as product of two numbers, right? Because in that case, 204 can be expressed in many ways as product of two numbers. It has specifically chosen 203 as a number here. Okay, so 29 times 7, that's the only combination possible. But now the question is, do you write, is d 7 or is n my 3 n minus 1 7? You don't know that, right? Which is where you would consider both the cases here, case 1 and case 2. Okay, so d is 7 and 3n minus 1 is 29. Okay, now 3n minus 1 is 29, which means n is 10. Okay, looks good. Or you consider d as 29 and 3n minus 1 as 7. When you do that, you get n is equal to 8 by 3, which is not possible. Okay, which means, because n is an integer, which means that the correct answer here is n. You needed value of n, which is 10. Akshat, 203 is something which you will need to simplify on your own. Okay, and the way to do that is, again, 203, you know it doesn't go in 2, it doesn't go in 3. You prime factorize it, right? And these are the skills that you would learn in number properties module, prime numbers. Okay, so you go all the way, you know, 2 is out, 3 is out. You do the divisibility test, and you essentially get to 7. And when you get to 7, when you do the division, you get 29 as the other number. And then you realize, oh, 7 and 29 both are prime numbers here. Okay. So again, as you do more and more problems, you will have, again, when you go through primes module, you will learn the concept there, right? And then as you do more and more problems, you will end up practicing a lot, and all those neural connections will become really, really solid for you. Okay. Now, when you come across such questions, the way Akshat asked, how do we come up with the factors of 2 or 3? Make a note of that, because that's a gap that you have. Okay, very important. Okay, and especially important when you come into the cementing stage. Maybe all through the course you didn't come across such question, which is not going to happen at all if you're going through the course. But let's just hypothetically say that, because when you are doing cementing using Scholaranium, you will see concepts, you will see applications that you may not have otherwise experienced, right? That's the whole point of you going through the cementing phase, right? That's when you identify those and you ask the question, how do I do that? Okay, you go through the solution and you basically uh, bridge that gap. Okay, that gap identification is very, very critical. Simran is asking, how do you reduce the time taken to solve questions like these? Simran, you go through the course the right way, you do cementing. As I said, timing should not be considered as an independent thing. As you build your ability, your time to answer these questions will automatically come down. Okay. And how do you build your ability? By going through the course in the right way. When you go through word problems section, you will see that so for example, over here 203 is product of two numbers, right? This as a concept will be taught to you in number properties. This as an application of will be covered in LCM GCD files, absolutely in indivisibility files, right? So you will have already seen application of this in number properties course before you even come to word problems course. So it's the skill building that happens one skill at a time through the course that has been put together by researching each and every official questions that's there. Okay, so you will get there. And the little gaps that you have, remember when we said that in cementing stage your goal is to get to 60% accuracy in hard questions, and then in test readiness stage you need to get to 70% accuracy. This improvement in accuracy happens when you do strategic review on Scholaranium, using questions in Scholaranium. Okay, so it's all a very scientific process which is based on how humans learn. Okay, and it's all, each and every module, each and every aspect of the course is built on those scientific principles. Okay, all right. So again, if you think about it, as we broke down this problem, it's an easy problem to begin with, right? If you break it down, if you apply these process skills one skill at a time. Would you guys agree with that? All the three solutions are there over here, right? You've looked at each of these questions, you solved them on your own. You said it was a very taxing experience, but now you've gone through the solutions. What do you guys feel? Because that feeling has to be the optimum feeling for you to go into your GMAT prep with. That feels easy after seeing the solutions. And if that's there, Akshat, and if you know how it is that you have to build those skills, then that's what I want you guys to take away from this session. Okay, so I'm going to take up some questions here. Let me just see what else is here. Okay, I'm going to go into the last pane here. Okay, and I want you to tell me. So you have all these. Let me share the PDF as well with you. But before I do that, tell me how was this session. I want to get your inputs as to how the session was. Tell me what you liked in the session and what are your key takeaways. Okay, and let me take some questions here, and I'll also share the PDF. Hmm. Session PDF, it's right here, so you can download that. So let me see. So Jean asked me, what do you think of the changes in question difficulty of the quant section in Focus Edition? Okay, so from a question difficulty level standpoint, there is no change in that between GMAT Focus and GMAT Classic. The main changes that have happened are really taking away of the geometry section. DS problems have changed significantly, wherein you no longer have those pure context questions and it's all real context. Okay, that's a very critical change that has happened, and all our courses have been changed accordingly. So we have stripped off all the questions which were of pure context of DS. We've gone through each and every file in a painstaking manner, and we have removed all those questions. Okay, there is an addition to DS questions, which is inference based DS questions. We are mocked. In fact, this is an interesting thing. Even the official mocks don't as yet have DS inference questions, okay? But our mocks have those DS inference questions, okay? So again, that is a very interesting tidbit that I wanted to share with you. So each of our, and we have a separate inference module in the DS module. So when you look at the DI course, DS course in data insights, you'll see verbal questions in data sufficiency. So that's a separate module. Then again, word problems. So each and every course has been, geometry has been removed. That was the easiest thing to do. Not only that, even in geometry, there were certain kinds of questions which are still tested on GMAT focus, and they are coordinate geometry related questions that pertain to algebra, linear equations. So those questions have been added to algebra course. Secondly, the area and perimeter related questions, those are your real context questions, right? So those questions that were asked in geometry have been also added to word problems. So in fact, the last question that you saw in the arithmetic section here in the word problems, that is area perimeter. So earlier it used to be covered under geometry, but now it is, even though geometry is out, but those kinds of questions are very much within the scope because they are real context. So Jean, to answer your question, is our e-GMAT quant course still that efficient? Absolutely yes. If there is a course that is efficient, that is the e-GMAT quant course from the standpoint of GFE conversion, GCE to GFE conversion. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Then Samagra asked, is quant focus more difficult compared to classic quant? Absolutely not. I don't know where all these fallacies are coming from. The skills that were tested on GMAT Classic, they are still the same skills that are tested on GMAT Focus. I would say GMAT Focus is a lot more pertinent test now because it's a lot more application oriented from the standpoint of real context. Your entire DI section is all application oriented. Your entire quant, is very much application oriented. So the skill set that focus edition tests you on is exactly the same skill set that was there on classic. It's just that the question formats have changed. So now you just have to train yourself on those question formats. But in terms of difficulty level, it still remains the same, right? It's really test of your skills, right? Your verbal skills, quant skills, and your integrated reasoning skills. Okay. All right. So I think that's about it. Oh, I don't have chat anymore. Sorry about that. Let me get the chat here. Okay. So all good, guys and girls. Everything is good here. You guys are all excited to master arithmetic. Again, if you have any questions, just write to us at support at e-gmat.com. Nick, yes, all these sessions are recorded, and we will send you the recording link in the next 12 hours. Okay. I hope you all enjoyed this session, and I hope that I was able to make the most for you guys in these 2.5 hours. Thank you for spending these 2.5 hours with me on your Sunday. The link will be sent to your email. Okay. All right. Good luck, and just let us know if you have any questions. Support at e-gmail.com. You can connect with me on my LinkedIn and Reddit as well. Let me see if I have direct links for that. Coffee sessions. Actually, we also, so all the students over here, if you somebody was asking me about not motivation, about how to prioritize GMAT prep. Okay, I'm not able to get this here. Um, yeah, so we conduct these coffee sessions with our for our students. So feel free to click on these and just access these. These are conducted every Friday morning IST time or Thursday morning, one of those. I don't have the latest recording over here, but we take students' questions so whatever student questions there are. So Harshit, you asked me about the doubt clearing session. So this is one of the questions in which it's not subject matter related, but it's really just, how do you, if you have any question with regards to how do you prepare, how you are faltering somewhere, just need motivation. So then definitely students should start attending these coffee sessions. These are really, really very insightful. So Rajat and I both conduct these sessions together. Okay. All right. I didn't send you my LinkedIn. So just find me on Reddit. It's Payal at e-GMAT and Rajat at e-GMAT. And you should definitely connect with us and LinkedIn as well. Okay. All right. So good luck and we'll see you on the e-GMAT platform. Bye bye.